meeting time accidentally wasn't changed, it was corrected within minutes. Why was it scheduled on an evening with other school events going on? There are school events going on most nights in this school district. If we didn't have a meeting because there was a school event going on, we probably wouldn't have very many meetings. Why do you want to ignore community requests for information meetings? I don't know what that means. Why is all this being done without community support? I believe it is being done with community support. The people that walk up and talk to me and that have called my house and that have emailed me, texted me, and social media messaged me are solidly behind what I do. They have walked up to me and said, I know that I don't have to show up at your meetings because you're going to do what's right. I trust your decisions because I've always been able to, and things of that nature. And if you don't want to believe that, I understand. Why is it being done when Mr. Sherrill is leaving for a new job? Mr. Sherrill has been offered a job. Mr. Sherrill has not yet accepted the job. There'll be a community visit by members of the Midland community. They'll have a meeting Thursday night in Midland to discuss what kind of contract options they're going to offer him. And until he says yes, he remains an Algonac employee with 3 years left on his contract. Why don't you care that we feel this is being shoved at us? I don't feel that it's being shoved at anybody. Michelle forwarded some emails to Mr. Jennings today. She had sent me an email at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on February 27th. Said, the bus drivers, the morale is really low. There's a rumor that they're being privatized. And you know, if it's not true, I really wish you'd let me know, and you know, you might want to stop by and see them or whatever, and let me know. And I emailed her back, and I said, it's a rumor. I emailed her an hour and 46 minutes later. It's a rumor. We're not considering privatizing the drivers. And when I spoke that day, that was true. The best practices part of the governor's transparency and dashboard stuff, whatever you think of that, and I don't think very highly of it at all, says you have to bid some certain things, and you have to be the provider on your insurance plan, and you have to, you have to do like 4 out of 6 things to qualify for this extra few dollars per pupil to do. We did that, and one of the things we bid custodial, we bid transportation, we bid food service, and so we qualified for the money just for putting the bids out there. And back in February, in the past, the bids that had come in for transportation were, as I said in my email to Michelle, weren't enough of a savings to do anything different. That was February 27th. March, April, May, the new round of bids comes in. The things that we have to look forward to as regards transportation don't look pretty. Look pretty bad. We had $3.8 million in the bank at the beginning of this year, rainy day fund. We're going to spend, by the time it's all said and done, probably $1.4 million of that this year. We probably spend at least that much next year. That gets us down to the following year, and the emergency financial manager will be here. Algonac's done a really good job of not having an emergency financial manager or any of that other stuff happen to us. When I got on this board in 1992, they were $600,000 in the hole. They got rid of the learning center that they had in Marine City. They unloaded a bunch of stuff. They made a bunch of changes in how they were doing things, and we borrowed enough money at the beginning of July to get us through when the state starts paying us in October at a cost of $70,000 in interest. And the board took one look at that and said to Dr. Geiger, we're really sorry, but that's $70,000. That's a teacher. You make that go away. And so Dr. Geiger started saving money. And we built up a nice fund equity which fortunately has carried us through to this far, where there's only 15% of the districts that have any money left in the bank, and we're in that group of people. We aren't borrowing to make it from year to year like a lot of other places are. We don't have emergency financial managers like a lot of other places are. If they're not, they're this close. It's not gonna get any prettier for school districts in the state. The state insists on still funding school districts at like, shooting from the hip, maybe missing real bad here, but like 2005, 2006 levels. I don't know about any of you, but there's nothing that I buy that I pay at the price today that I paid for them. It just doesn't, you know. So, privatizing the transportation. I have to buy 5 buses in the next 5 years to keep things current and going forward and so on.
Why do you have to buy buses?
Because the fleet is aging out. And
Well, so are my cars, but I fix them and make sure that they run for a long time.
And do the state police come and inspect your cars at the level that our buses get inspected?
Well, you can fix them to that level.
And you have 13-year-old buses that pass inspection every year.
I understand. Okay. I'm not gonna win on that one.
Can I say something?
Oh, why certainly.
I mean, you talk about state and the financial managers and emergency stuff coming in, and it's like you said, 85% of the school districts in our state don't have any money in their fund there. But 85% of the school districts in our state don't have emergency financial managers.
That's not what I was saying.
You make it sound though like in the next 2 years, if we use up our fund equity, that all of a sudden we're gonna have this emergency financial manager show up in Algonac. And you know New Haven operated for a decade in the red before they got rid of the superintendent, got a new super. They still don't have an emergency financial manager. This state.
And do you know why? No, do you know why? Seriously?
Well, they tried to farm the school district out to 2 others and nobody wants the school
No,
district.
but because the Lance Cruise is running New Haven.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And so I don't have to sit here and tell the community, if we don't do something in 24 months, we're gonna have an emergency financial manager. That's the kind of stuff that you guys say that you know isn't true. It doesn't happen like that. It goes on for years, and then the governor's gonna restore some funding. And then there's other ways to work with Reese and the county to make things better. It's all those tactics that you guys use. Oh, we're gonna get an emergency financial manager. Oh, I have to buy 5 buses. And people.
First of all, I'm not using tactics.
Well, you say that kind of stuff, though, and you know, Andy, that's not how it works. It doesn't happen that fast.
I'm sorry, but I am acutely aware of how it works, and I know acutely how it works,
Well, they're
okay?
not gonna set
No,
up
please.
emergency
Let
financial.
me clarify a few things. Number one, there's only 37 districts out of the 544 that are in the hole. We're in the top 15% of having money in our fund balance. That, there's only 15 equal or above us in that percent. 85% have a lower fund balance than what we do. They do have money in the savings account. There's only 37 districts of this 544 in the state that don't have any money.
And the unfortunate thing about that is that the state, our legislators and our governor really don't care. I talk to Phil Pavlov about this all the time, and what does he do? He smirks and turns around and walks away from me. I mean, these people are not looking out for me as a taxpayer, they're not looking out for you as people that work here, and they're not looking out for Algonac school children. They just assume we weren't here. Phil Pavlov's Twitter page, you get to put a little thing about, to describe yourself. It says, empowering individuals, not institutions. He put a thing on his Facebook page, and it was, he accepted some award from some Right to Life group or whatever, and it was the Christian something or whatever, and there's this picture of him and this gentleman standing at the podium and him getting this plaque, and I was so pleased to receive this award on behalf of empowering individuals, not institutions. That's this guy's whole thing, empowering individuals, not institutions. And I've had to shoot him an email, and I said, I hope that by not institutions, that you're not saying even institutions that empower individuals. And I haven't heard back from him, which didn't surprise me.
Can I say one more thing?
Of course.
I think that the biggest complaint of the community with regard to this whole issue, and you said one of your answers was you didn't feel that you guys were rushing this through. Now, so let me just lay a timeline out for you. So you have the perspective of other people. In the end of February, you tell this group of people the school has no intention of privatizing anything.
At this time.
At this time. Okay, so May the 13th, now we'll fast forward to May the 13th. Tim Izakowski's sitting there in a school board meeting telling us this is the first time he's heard this presentation and is getting the information. That's May the 13th. You say that night, you promise, a resident stands up and says, tell us you're not going to vote on this next week. Your response was, we're not gonna vote on this next week. Next week comes and you're the guy that makes the motion to pursue a contract with Dean Transportation. So all this to the community is happening very fast. From a leadership perspective, if you guys
I'm
have,
not- first of all-
just let me finish and you can talk. From a leadership perspective, this is a monumental subject for the community. You talk about your primary thing is children.
Right.
Well, these parents that are sitting out here in these audiences, Andy, they're not here for their dogs and cats, my friend. They're concerned about their children too, and their children's day starts when they walk out the house and get on the bus.
And I
So
don't
you-
understand how anybody thinks that part of their day is gonna change.
Andy.
No, seriously,
Come
I
on, it's
really
gonna
don't.
change.
Andy.
Everybody who works.
No,
for
go
these
ahead and laugh, okay, but I really
I
don't
will
understand
laugh
how.
Okay, but you
All
don't
these-
wanna listen.
If you don't wanna
You don't
listen,
wanna
they've
listen.
talked.
Yes,
to
I do
He's
wanna
got
listen.
tunnel vision.
See, the problem that has been happening here, and it's been perpetuated by you, my friend.
Oh, well, thank you.
Oh.
Yes, it has been.
I appreciate that. Now, when you go back to your Facebook page and tell people that how rude you just were to me and said that I'm the start of this,
I didn't say you were the start of it.
All I am doing is standing up for these people. There are people in this school district that won't even come to the meetings because they fear retaliation when they go back to work.
Yeah,
Now,
for
if
their
you don't-
children.
If you don't believe that, Andy, I'm sorry.
Well,
But
what
it's
I
the
do
truth.
believe is that, having not jam cram packed full classrooms and having more multi-age classrooms in our district than necessary benefits our children a whole lot more than having maximum capacity classrooms.
I don't think anybody in this community would disagree with you on that. I think.
Well,
all they
I
want is the
kinda do.
So
opportunity
what
to
I'm
come
doing is I'm
together.
trying to help not have that happen.
Hey, I went to a school where there was 1,200 in a small school. We all learned really well.
Yeah, or you got SWATs out in the hallway. I was in one of those schools too.
Andy, all the
We
community
learned well.
wants to do is be
You
a
think-
part of that decision too. The 7 of you who are elected don't have all the answers, and neither do the people in the community. But they'd like to be a part of it, because as this becomes harder every year to make it all work, you can't keep ignoring these people and making changes when they're sitting there saying, we don't know that we want to do this right now. All they're asking is that you slow down and include them in the process. Who knows, you might have some brilliant person that steps up and has an idea that nobody's thought about.
There you go.
And to help you, but you guys aren't even asking. You went from the 13th of May from an informational meeting.
No.
Sometime
7 days
back up.
May
back up.
3rd. May 3rd.
That was the meeting that you guys knew, but Tim Izakowski's sitting there saying it's the first time he's heard anything about this. Bill, please sit down, you have more information than me. And so a week later, you go to a vote. The people in the audience see this. All they're asking, they're not opposing you, they're asking to be a part of what you're doing.
And do you
they
know why they're not opposing you?
Andy, there's a ton of people that don't like this. They're not opposing you because, you write in an email to people that oppose you like this is some Harry Potter movie. It's not Harry, there's nobody opposing the school board. The community is asking to be involved in this decision because it's important to them. That's really all this is about. And you guys won't even slow down long enough to get with them. And Mike went up and if you watched his interview, he talked to the school board about having focus groups and he goes around and talks to the service clubs about these things. He hasn't done any of that with this issue. These parents were completely unaware that you guys were even considering privatizing the transportation department. And all they want is to be a part of the solution. Privatization is just one option. It might be the best option at the end, but it's going to be a lot easier for the whole community if they all have ownership of that instead of just the 7 of you trying to literally in 7 days go from informational meeting to vote. I mean, put yourself in everybody else's position. You have the luxury of having every piece of information that comes into this district because you're on the school board. The community doesn't have that luxury. Just include them. It'll be so much easier. I don't know why you guys have put yourself in this position against so many people in the community.
Bill, you've been on this board.
You're right, and I know how it works, and it doesn't need to work this way with this issue. This is a huge topic.
It's not a huge, it's
It
not
is.
like
Well, it is to us.
It's not like I have to shut down every
Andy,
building in
it
the
is a
district
huge
and murder.
Yeah, it is to us.
You're messing with people's lives.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
Actually.
Yes, you are.
Actually, Max, I'm trying to
Yeah.
make people's lives better.
No, it's not
Yeah, I
though.
really
Have you
am.
ever?
No,
Andy.
no,
No, wait a
no.
minute. Do you know what raises they're gonna get going with Dean?
How many raises have you got in the last 3 years?
Okay.
None.
How many raises have you got in the last 3 years?
None. We
Two
gave
of them
back.
will still get nothing. Two of them will still get nothing. It was supposed to be a decrease, and Mike said he'd go in and talk to Dean. One gets 19
I
cents.
saw your comments.
Yeah.
Okay. I
So,
knew
so.
it. How many
you're asking
raises
them-
did anybody get in the last 3 years?
Andy, they
I'm
had
just
investments
saying.
going into MIP. Do you wanna give them
None of my
your?
teachers have gotten raises in the last 3 years. And
Correct.
none of the
Correct.
other people that you represent have gotten
Correct.
raises in the last 3
We've
years.
all bit the bullet. And your fund balance has increased and has stayed higher than 85% of the districts in this state. And they've made concessions all along and rollbacks, had a contract until 2015, which now isn't worth the paper it's written on.
I
Well,
mean, what is that in good
the,
faith?
the facts of the matter, of which I am acutely aware, as Mr. Jennings says, I do receive all the information that comes into the school district. And I do have to make decisions based on what I think is in the best interest of all parties concerned.
Then you should want to listen to these
Yeah.
people.
And I have listened to
No, you
people.
haven't, not
Yes, I have.
really.
No, you
No.
never called me.
No.
You never showed up at
No,
my house.
I'm not going to.
Well, then how can I listen
No.
to you? How can I listen to you? You know what? Chris messaged me and asked me a question about something, and I messaged her back, and she said, "Oh, okay,
She's
I
also
get
a
that."
retired driver.
I understand, but as a citizen who had a question, I answered her question.
Do you know that teachers?
Mrs.
won't
Campbell
speak-
and I spent an hour on the phone today and had a wonderful conversation about all kinds of things.
Well, I think that's good.
Teachers
and
won't
you-
speak at your board meetings because they're afraid of being retaliated against. I can black out the names of the emails that said, "We support you, but we won't get up and speak at the board meeting because of the retaliation."
So that's not what I'm hearing. I'm
And-
telling you.
I've heard
And
that from
it's not
several
right here.
people.
We have parents that are emailing me, they're coming to school board meetings because they're afraid of what happened to their kids in school. Now, you can
Exactly.
believe that or not, maybe these people are just absolutely just lying through their teeth and sending those emails. But
Is there
those
any other
emails are
question
lying.
anybody has? Because my dinner was cooking when I left, I decided to, because Mrs. Campbell said, well, I was really kind of hoping that both sides could kind of be heard here, and it would be nice if you showed up. And I
Well,
thought,
it
you
was too
know,
late at that
well,
point,
but
so
but still,
we just kind
no,
of came
no,
to make sure nobody showed up
but
to
as
an empty
I thought
building.
about it later, I said, you know, she's right, and I'll show up, you know, for a bit. So my dinner's cooking. Are there any other questions?
I'm not gonna put you on the spot, Andy, but I am gonna say you might wanna check when you're saying 5-6 is the last time the funding has changed. You might
Well,
wanna check that.
I don't have I mean, they're funding us at a hell of a lot less than if they had been, if the raises in foundation grants had continued the way that they had, or even incrementally along the way, I mean, we're nowhere near what 12 that's my point.
But then why are we at a 23% fund balance?
We're not at
Because we had
23% fund balance. I don't think it's 23.
Then it's reported incorrectly to the VIC.
Well, okay, now if you want to use the 23% number, that also includes money that is set aside that is designated for things.
Is that a new MASB thing? That try and say restricted and unrestricted because, number one, it
No,
used
it's
to be
not,
5%.
no, actually, it's not an MASB thing, it is a government
I
reporting.
understand.
You know, that GASB 32, it's a government reporting
I
requirement.
don't-
You have to.
Right, don't
Right.
doubt me, I know finances, I know school finances, I tear them apart. There's restricted, and there's unrestricted, and there's designated, but you have never broken those pieces out from the fund balance. The fund balance has always been including those things, always. Now, all of a sudden, the new MASB thing is pull the restricted out, and this is really how our fund balance is. Until Lou Battaglieri got up and tried to get a bill on the floor that said anything above 15% that districts give back for a pool for the lower ones, you only ever had to have a 5% fund balance. That was it. And you can ask Bill Foster. I just asked him the other day, am I crazy? Did I fall down and bump my head? Or was it always until Lou Battaglieri put that motion try to get that bill going, that your fund balance ran, everybody said it was a recommended 5%.
But understand, the restricted is for one thing, the designated is for another thing, and the unrestricted is, that's your rainy day fund, that's the cash that you have on hand. So to lump it all together and say, yeah, you got 23%, yeah, you do. But when you have, some of that money, that I have to pay for, so I have to set this money aside to pay for it, much like I do in my own checking account. The other chunk is for things that I'm planning to do. I need to make some technology purchases, and so I have that money set aside to do those things. And then I have my chunk of money that's my rainy day fund that, oops, I went over a little on a grocery bill this week, like at my house, I went over in a grocery bill this week, I need to dip in there, and then I need to try to put some of it back. That's how it works. So 23%, yeah, that's the whole nut. The money that was actually available to freely use to spend to get us from one year into the next year is not 23%. I could just about guarantee it. I'm not going to guarantee it because I'm not that good with numbers either. We hire people to do that. I know I can shoot from the hip and maybe miss really bad and get kind of close. On a good day, I could chip it into a bushel basket over there, but, it's I've had people say, well, spend that money, and then start borrowing if you have to.
We're not telling you to spend that money.
I'm not saying anybody is. I'm saying I have had people say that to me, okay? People have said that. Why don't you do that? Why do I want to pay interest on something when I can use my savings account to kind of shore me up and keep wonderful educational opportunities going on for Algonac school children? It's a
And
no-brainer.
who are these people paying taxes to?
I pay taxes too.
Okay?
Yeah, we all
But
do.
all of these people who are gonna lose their jobs are still gonna be paying taxes.
And I don't,
to their
that's not,
And
school.
what's the difference if you break even every year and you pay all your bills and your people?
Can I just comment on the job thing? Grand Rapids School District and Dean, there was the lawsuit. Dean went to the U.S. Court of Appeals with that, and they lost that. And that lawsuit was about the bargaining unit being re-recognized after the private company came into the building. Okay? So the U.S. Court of Appeals said Dean had to take all those employees back and recognize the bargaining unit, which seems black. So here's what private companies do now. They will tell you they're gonna hire all these employees, and they will hire. But
that's not true. No, I've already looked into it, that's not true.
50% plus one.
No, that's
Do you
not
want the
true.
lawsuit? I have it in my.
I got a copy of the email that Mr. Jennings sent with the lawsuit as well.
They have to recognize the bargaining unit's request.
If all 11 of our drivers went to work for Dean, and they wanted to form a union, they can form a
Not
union.
formed a union.
That's
Their
not-
union automatically moves over.
That's
They're
correct.
automatically
Well, if-
MEA.
That's
So-
correct. If Dean hires more than 50% plus one, which is 6 of them, then they have to recognize the unit that currently.
That's not true.
But if they hire five,
Let me know.
Less than 50%.
The proposal, the motion that lays on the table as we speak, is for Dean to hire our 11 drivers, is for Algonac Community Schools to have final approval on all personnel decisions, have final approval on all route decisions. They can't say, we want all the kids from the island to walk to the ferry, and we'll pick them up at the ferry. We could say, no, there's people that are in places where they need to be picked up, you're gonna do the island route like we do the island route. Our drivers will hire in at Dean at their years of service, their seniority level, their same seniority roster, pretty much, in the exact same order, shifts over. They bid on routes the same way they bid before. Everybody's guaranteed 4 hours. I'll even use Michelle's number. A couple of people aren't gonna get a raise, several more people are gonna get somewhat of a raise, and some people are gonna do all right. everybody's gonna have an opportunity for health care, which they do not currently have, because about 15 years ago, maybe a little bit more, not quite 20, there were, the drivers that we had at that time, mostly ladies that, their husbands worked for Chrysler and Ford, said, we don't make enough money, which was true. Drivers would hire in at Algonac schools. The school system would pay for the CDLs, all the certifications and stuff, and they would have all the certifications and stuff, and then they would go to Anchor Bay or Lance Cruise or somewhere where they paid more because they already had the certification, and the school district's like, woohoo, we got somebody with the stuff, we don't have to pay. So they did that. So these ladies came to us and they said, we don't make enough money. And our husbands all work for Ford and Chrysler, we don't need your health care, give us $2, $3 more an hour. And Dr. Geiser said, okay, here you go. So the predecessor, then those people left and a bunch of new people showed up, newer people showed up, and they would like to have health care. Well, that ship kind of sailed, your predecessors traded that away on you. I work on the railroad, our predecessors traded away jobs for us. And they traded away all kinds of jobs since I've been working here, so I understand what that's all about. My thing was, if the people that work for me can have the opportunity to make at least the same money that they're making now, and probably maybe even more, have an opportunity for health care, have to not, if the people, 6 out of the 5 are vested in the pension plan, they can freeze that pension. If they quit today and said, I'm gonna go work at the Speedway, they freeze their pension, and when they turn 60 years old, you'll be able to draw that pension, you'll take a little bit of hit for however long it's frozen. And then 60 years old, if you turn 60 tomorrow, you'd be able to start drawing on that vested pension and be able to participate in the healthcare plan as it exists.
No, that's not true,
That's not
Andy.
true.
You're wrong.
That's
That's why we're
because
fighting
they don't
this.
understand.
This is why the big fight is
Something
on.
completely different than I'm here.
Yes.
But you've got to
Yes.
go, I've been to
Yes.
2 retirement meetings. Chris has been to 2, Debbie's been to 1 or 2, right?
You have to be actively
We are-
employed
yeah, we are-
with a public school employer the month prior to retiring in order to get the subsidy for the health benefits.
Period.
Otherwise, they'll be paying $1,200 a month. If they get the subsidy, they'll be paying $200 a month. So that's $1,000 a month, Andy. That's.
It isn't
real.
about our retirement check, because by the time I turn 60, which is 6 more years, and I get to retire, Andy, my check will be somewhere around $500 a month. Well, that's, you can't live on that. That's not why I'm doing this. I'm doing this so Don and I would have health coverage when I retire, so we wouldn't have to worry about being in our 60s and paying the health coverage. That's why I'm doing
I mean,
this.
there's quite a subsidy.
You know.
Different, like, I don't know if you saw when I was up there doing it, I was doing it for a reason, to show that they only pay $17 for their dental and vision if they qualify and they're working the month prior, and they only pay $200 for 2-person, otherwise they have to pay $1,200, they don't get any of the subsidy.
It wipes
for
out
the
the whole
insurance.
retirement.
I'm not gonna argue numbers with you, I'm sorry, because I don't have them in front of me, and
Would you go back and think about
I
that?
have, Bill, I have.
Well, you thought about it incorrectly. They just told you what it was. It's gonna cost, her retirement goes out the window. If she makes $500 and has to pay $1,200 in a subsidy for her and Don to have insurance, it's, her retirement
She's
is
in the
gone.
hole.
You guys are.
Yeah, I'm in the
throwing
hole.
that away
I won't
by
get
these
anything
ladies. They've
after all the
worked
years.
17 years for that.
I mean, I showed you maxing a 401k with them doing the 7% and the union dues, like Mike's case scenario, they would almost have enough to pay for insurance for 3 months, almost. But then that's another 9 months with no insurance and no pension at all. So I mean,
So health insurance to them right now through Dean, that they have to pay $250